The project is called InHerit, and its aim is to introduce people from different countries in Europe to the idea of heritage interpretation, to give them a taste for it and some skills for how they might deliver it in their own organisations.
This is an experimental course. We've got partners from 9 countries across Europe with participants from those 9 countries looking at how we can devise interpretation training that can work across Europe. And we are using techniques that model what we want for visitor communication at our natural and human heritage sites.
This course is part of an interesting programme to look at training in interpretation and developing staff skills in interpretation across Europe. And the course is actually a pilot programme. It's the first time we've run the programme. In many ways it's a bit of an experiment to see whether we can apply some of the ideas that have been developed through the project about the skills, the competencies that people need to do successful heritage interpretation, whether we can put that together in a course of 3 days or so that would introduce people to the skills and to the concept of heritage interpretation as a whole.
One of the things we talk about is an interpretive triangle, and you have a feature or resource, which could be a castle, and then you have the visitors, the people who might go and see that castle, but the interpreter is trying to link the two things to form this triangle of understanding and acting as a bridge between the resource and the individual. And there are techniques that we use that mean that our way of connecting people is much more engaging than the traditional route of just bombarding people with facts.
To use hands-on things, to get to touch and feel and smell.
Yeah, we tend to rely on just the written word or just speaking, but if you get people to smell things and taste if it's safe, hear things, touch, yeah, sort of engage them, so like handling objects, the idea of props, so something that sort of brings something to life. So one of the things we're developing is a competence profile for the field of professional interpretation, and what that means is that if somebody's an interpretive guide, we will identify the level of competence that they need to achieve in order to be regarded as a professional in their field, and this hasn't been done before. We've tended to rely on other ways of assessing how good somebody is.
And I will give each pair a location within the palace and one outside, and some information about that location, some ideas that you might want to use in your guided talk. And then the exercise will be to work in your pairs up until lunch to prepare a short talk that you will then deliver to the rest of the group after lunch.
To have a quick look inside, and we're in Virginia's boudoir, so that was her sort of private sanctuary.
In the dining room, little notes about things she didn't like, so she could complain to the servants, and then if they liked it or didn't like it, she couldn't care less. So this is a completely different part of the house.
As we are discussing heritage interpretation, it's the key element to really connect people with museum objects in museum, with the nature outside. Interpretation is necessary. Without that, people could create some kind of ideas, but not necessary ideas which are relevant or which are important, or at some points what we'd like to communicate to them.
If you add interpretation, and if you really add an idea of what you want to communicate with people, that will give even more value for the participants. And you have to plan that thoroughly. You have to know what you are doing. So that's mainly what this is about, this course.
I think interpretation is also very important in that it offers people ways of looking at a place and ways of thinking about it and ways of understanding it. They may come with their own questions that they want to know, but it can send them away with other ideas that help them understand that place and really appreciate it. It enriches people's experience of the places they come to visit.
What they will take away from this is a set of tools, but also some core understanding about how people relate to their heritage, and particularly to heritage that is located at places. Heritage buildings like this one, natural heritage sites like national parks. The work of the heritage interpreter is to build those connections between people and place, and that's what we're looking at.
Mainly it is inspiration to change things, to build up new ideas about how education, how learning in Europe works, especially in this non-formal field where we are. We are not in formal education, we are in a leisure time. So how can we use this time for this big idea of lifelong learning? And I think if they take inspirations from this 3-day course and say, how, now I get back to my museum or go back to my park and I try to change something in this educational and learning approach, we would have done a very good job.
Well, what we hope that they will take back some new skills and knowledge that will enable them to deliver interpretation themselves, but also potentially give them a kind of toolkit for telling others about interpretation and its importance so that they can kind of promote it within their own organisations.
I hope they'll be able to go away from here with more of a sense of a disciplined approach to thinking about interpretation, some tools that they can use to plan it that will help them provide better quality visitor experiences back in their own organisations and their own countries.
I hope that people, attending, will get back home a new a new idea and proposal to develop interpretation in their working situation, if not even in their country.
This course should bring to people is that they realize that heritage interpretation is not a matter of sending an interpretation to an audience, but it is evoking or triggering a process of interpretation that raises the level of awareness of the value of heritage, but also the appreciation and the, let's say, the motivation to get to know more about it.
But what we want to give them is a sort of like fire their enthusiasm to go back and say, actually, heritage interpretation, it's really good. There are other courses available that I'd like to go on. Please, Mr. Manager or Mrs. Manager, can I go on this course? Because not only will it benefit me personally, but what it will really do is mean we have happier visitors, more satisfied visitors, and if they're happy and satisfied, that means that they'll engage with the site more, they maybe join your membership body, stay in the cafe longer because they've had such a great time, they'll tell their friends about it, and basically just boost heritage interpretation across Europe.
For me, it's been brilliant. I mean, I work at the moment as a historic property steward, so in one of the old houses. I'm going to be moving into an interpretation role, so this is teaching me all the basics really that I need to know. It's making me aware of things that I didn't even know existed, so it's really good.
It's been really, really interesting to look at things from a different perspective. I work as a tourist guide, so I've learned to look at the audience, at the people I work for, what they expect. So it gives you different perspectives. I can do my job better now.
It's been incredibly stimulating. I've learned a lot about the importance of the audience, how to approach the visitor, how to think about the visitor as someone with a diverse interest, someone who is not like me, but someone who's got their own background, their own ideas, and who comes to the site to learn something but also enjoy and be entertained. I've also learned a lot about people from other countries, how heritage professionals do what they do and what ideas they have around Europe, and that's been incredibly useful.
It is a very interesting experience for me because I organize exhibitions in my work, and I also organize lessons for groups, different groups, tourist groups also, and the issues in this course are very useful and helpful for my job.
It's been really interesting so far today. It's asking a lot of questions, which is really helping me to frame how we use our visitor experience and actually think about why people visit the sites that we've got, how we can best present the information to them that they might want to know, and also what the stories we've got to tell about the sites that we work in.
So after today, we've got one more day of the pilot course tomorrow, and then there will be some reviewing of what happened, and then there will be a second pilot course in Italy in November. And the output for the whole project will be a manual that will kind of enable people to deliver the training to their own organisations in their own countries.